name is Elliot Moore. I am the music director and conductor of the Longmont Symphony Orchestra in Colorado. And thank you so much for joining us on Kaleidos Notes, where we are talking about some of the music that we will be performing on our October 2nd performance. We've already discussed Brahms's Academic Festival Overture, and today we are going to be talking about Mozart's Piano Concerto Number 12 in A major. Of course, with me, I've got the wonderful pianist Hsing-ay, who will be our soloist for this performance. Hsing-ay, welcome. Thank you for being with us. Hsing-ay, we're going to be performing Mozart's 12th Piano Concerto together. And there is so much that can be said about Mozart, of course, in his relatively short life. But one of the things that has gained a lot of popularity in the last, I don't know, maybe 20 years or so, has been something called the Mozart Effect. Can you talk to us about what the Mozart Effect is?
Yeah, I think I've always grown up with this idea that somehow playing Mozart or listening to Mozart is great for our higher brain function. It's good for raising test scores for our kids, things like that. And I think there's actually some truths to why the music of Mozart can affect us in a really positive way. And it has to do with, I think, the design, the steadiness of his pacing, this lightness and buoyancy, and then also just the spaciousness he has for us to rest and have this space to think and reflect. So let me go back to the design part. With everything, every sound that we're hearing in Mozart, there's always a phrase ending, a phrase beginning, and then there's the ending and beginning of a section, and it's very structured so that we can trust there will always be a resolution, a closure to every conflict. And what a nice feeling. I wish life was like that. um, and then also the pacing of how he goes about it. I mean, there's a lot of freedom in how he touches each note within a measure, but then at the downbeat of every measure, there's a sense of, okay, we're touching here and here and here, so that pacing is just so comfortable and secure. And then lightness, I think that most of the music that our kids enjoy is pop and rock, things that have more of a throwing down on the beat, and probably a lot louder than Mozart. But this concerto, it's all about lifting up. And so, like the very opening, like right there on that downbeat, it doesn't go down. I hear it as lifting. And so that feeling of almost like flying or taking off all the time makes me really happy.
I hear you. This concerto was written, I want to say, in 1783. And that was right around the time that, and in fact, I think that was the year that he moved to Vienna. And he kind of became the world's first freelance composer. I wanted to get your thoughts on maybe, do you see this work as being sort of, this expression of Mozart, that where he sort of bears his soul to the world, or is it, in your mind, an expression of somebody who wanted to please and sort of uplift and entertain even the Viennese audience? Is it one? Is it both? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's a great angle. I kind of feel it as a little bit of both. And I think that that really was a tremendous life transition for him to be coming out as his own independent person, from the bishop in Salzburg, who actually, I don't know if you guys in the audience know about the story that the bishop sent someone to go kick him in the butt, literally, to show his disapproval. I mean, imagine being treated like that. He's this great genius in the music world, but the musicians of those days were like servants. And so, how degrading to be kicked in the butt. But then, he saw the risk he was taking, and yet he went on and went to the musical capital of the world in his day, Vienna. He did not get his dad's approval. I mean, it was a huge risk that he was taking, and so. And then he married Constanza against his father's wishes like a year later. So all these things about him transforming from this child prodigy who is being managed to his own person. And I just find so much joy in this piece. And I think it must come from his life circumstances at that time. And then the second point that you're talking about is, pleasing the audience. Yeah, I think he was very smart about the spirit of the day, this galant style of, wanting to feel good. And he really knew how to sell it in a good sense, how to help the people in the audience have a really great time. And speaking of that, with, the cadenzas that he played, he was a great improviser, as a lot of the soloists were at that time. And so there's a lot of room within the pieces to come out and show off his improv skills.
Well, listen, you just brought up an amazing point, which is improvisation. And in particular, he would improvise in the slow movements. And I'm wondering if this is something that you do, or if this is, sort of as a performance practice type thing, or if it's something maybe you plan out, or how much freedom do you take particularly in the slow movements?
Right, yeah. Thanks for asking. So, when I teach my students, I really encourage them to compose a little bit, especially we're talking about, the classical era cadenzas, but then even in Bach's pieces, there's room for ornamentation. And so I think that we have seen a real decline in the creative part of performing, creating, improving, things like that whole mindset. And hopefully we're going to come around back to that when people see how fun it is. And the interesting thing about the pandemic is I think it does make people a little bit more open-minded to what is our tradition and what is our trajectory. And I would love it if everybody, when they approached a Mozart concerto, thought about that. Having said that, though, I played around with the chord progressions and whatnot. But the thing about this particular concerto, because he published it, he wrote down cadenzas, and he actually gives everybody a choice of two cadenzas at each of the three movement climaxes, and then also an eingang in the second movement. And by eingang, I just mean it's literally an entry into the next phrase. So it's not a big deal like a cadenza. It's a small sized cadenza. And so anyway, because Mozart wrote such wonderful ideas already in this particular concerto, I stick with that. Usually what I like to do is kind of add in chords and try some things out, and then cut and paste and do a collage of different things. But in this one, what I tried to do is pretty much use his notes, but I'll take maybe a part of the first cadenza and skip to the end of the second cadenza or something like that. And then, of course, ornamentation. That's always fun to do.
Listen, thank you so much for taking the time, talking through some of these, issues regarding improvisation versus non-improvisation, and cadenza, writing your own versus going with what Mozart had to say, and where the concerto fits into his, general work. It's really going to be a pleasure sharing the stage with you. And of course, I encourage everyone to go and buy a ticket. We are going to be streaming it live. So you can purchase a ticket and watch it from anywhere in the world.
And I just wanted to add also that this Saturday on September 25th is my Conscious Listening Cafe Online. And it's a place where we can discuss more about different kinds of music, but this week particularly is about Mozart's cadenzas. Come in and explore my thoughts and decision making about how to play them, how to arrange them. And then also next Wednesday, join us for my house concert. And I'm going to be playing pieces by the three composers of our concert, which is Mozart, Brahms, and Schumann, as well as some other people. And then we'll have a Q&A as well.
Thank you, and we look forward to all of that.
Thanks.